Good evening, I'm Adrienne Arsenault.
And I'm Andrew Chang. Tonight, the race against the COVID variants.
I can't breathe like I did before. It's still a bit hard.
We'll look at the uphill climb from Quebec City to Vancouver.
Clinical and devastating. A medical witness deciphers George Floyd's final moments.
He is now literally trying to breathe with his fingers and knuckles.
New violence in Northern Ireland. Why Brexit and COVID are to blame.
And tracking down the man who raped her.
I was angry he made me a victim.
Police couldn't find him, so she did. This is The National. COVID-19 infections are surging. Hospital and ICU beds are filling up. And the fear tonight is that Canada's third wave might overwhelm the system.
And with vaccinations still lagging, a bad situation has gotten dramatically worse in just 1 week. Take a look at these spikes. Daily cases have shot up from roughly 6,000 to 8,000. Hospitalizations from 2,500 to more than 3,000. And those swamped intensive care units from roughly 760 to about 900. Tonight, we chart how it's all playing out across the country as leaders plead with Canadians to stay vigilant and follow the rules. Let's start in Ontario, and breaking news about new orders from the province to most hospitals. They've been told to halt non-emergency surgeries effective this coming Monday. It's set out in an Ontario health memo obtained by CBC News. Hospitals in the southern part of the province will only perform emergency and life-saving surgeries. The memo also says available staff may be asked to redeploy to sites requiring support. Ontario hospitals currently have more than 1,400 COVID patients. 525 are in intensive care. The backlog of surgery cases stands at almost 250,000.
We've reached this critical point, I think, where in order to generate the capacity that we need to look after the kinds of patients that we know are going to be coming over the next couple of weeks, we need to ramp down some of the surgeries and procedures and other care that is not emergent.
At least one hospital in the region has told CBC News it has been asked to remain at 85% capacity in order to be ready for a potential wave of COVID patients.
In Quebec, there is genuine alarm. Cases are spiking and variants are threatening to spread out of control. Today, the Premier got tough again. Here's Alison Northcott on what's changing, where, and especially why.
Liliane Tivierge explains her new reality after catching a COVID-19 variant in March.
That I can't breathe like I did before. It's still a bit hard.
She's just one of hundreds in the Quebec City area who've been infected.
I'm okay with the fact that they want more measures to be applied because it's serious. I mean, COVID's not a joke.
The number of new daily cases has been rising steadily in Quebec City with more than 430 today. Public health officials say almost 3/4 are variants. This gym, shut down last week after not following public health measures, is the epicenter of the largest outbreak, now linked to hundreds of cases, triggering dozens of other outbreaks.
When we see such type of things, it's extremely frustrating.
This ICU physician says his hospital can cope with the influx for now, but worries about having enough staff if things get worse.
We see more patients that are in their 40s and 50s, even 30s, even 20s, which reflects the fact that the virus is spread out in the community.
Last week, the province closed schools and non-essential businesses in Quebec City just 3 weeks after easing restrictions. Now it's extending the new measures by another week.
This new variant is very transmissible, and it happens sometimes. There is, we call it a super spreading situation, like in the gym.
There will also be travel restrictions for those in harder hit areas to protect regions where cases are low, with fines of up to $6,000 for people who break the rules. For Quebec City's healthcare workers, the sudden spikes are concerning.
We feel the pressure of more and more positive cases and more people that have also the risk of infecting other people.
In Montreal, cases are relatively stable for now, but the Premier says he's worried about a sudden explosion in transmission. So on Sunday, the city will go back to an earlier 8 p.m. curfew as a precaution. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
In BC today, case numbers hit another high. 1,293 new infections recorded in the last 24 hours, driven by those more contagious variants. There is real urgency in that province and a demand taking shape that business cannot continue as normal. As Anita Bath shows us, a central question now, who gets vaccinated next?
The calls are getting louder.
We are the ones who are working in those more exposed jobs of the grocery stores, of the service industry.
And the classroom, which is where 34-year-old Kelly McDozen works as a teacher on call.
I'm terrified about the variants, especially what we've been hearing about the P1 and how it's so much more transmissible and more dangerous to young people.
That high number of young people now getting sick has some calling for an urgent change to BC's vaccine strategy.
All people of, say, 18 and over, and we could move our way up from there.
Professor Kelly Lee says,
as we've had variants come into the country, really it's younger people that are now being more at risk.
If supply allows for it, she recommends vaccinating the youngest and oldest at the same time.
Certainly have had long conversations about this.
Dr. Bonnie Henry says, though, the strategy is not changing.
And look at the data we presented today. It is still an older demographic who end up in hospital, who have severe disease, and who are dying from COVID-19.
But she does believe in vaccinating frontline workers, and many of them are younger. That plan to get them the shot has been put on hold because of concerns over the AstraZeneca vaccine for those under 55.
I think this is a conversation that should be happening right now.
Dr. Srinivas Murthy believes Dr. Henry should consider moving some Pfizer and Moderna supply back to those young workers.
If you vaccinate the essential workers first, the likelihood of you getting infection as an older person is less.
Both Murthy and Lee agree this shouldn't just be a BC conversation, challenging the rest of Canada to consider a shift as well. Anita Bath, CBC News, Vancouver.
Alberta's ICU cases are still well below record highs set in the winter, but they are climbing, as are daily infections. Alberta saw more than 1,400 new cases today. That's up more than 60% from a week ago, and the highest since before Christmas. And what's alarming, even beyond that, half the cases are from highly contagious variants, which are now outpacing the original strain of the virus.
We have now reached the point where variants of concern are the dominant strains of new COVID-19 cases in our province.
And to help contain that situation, anyone in close contact with any confirmed case will be tested twice, with a 10-day waiting period after the first test. So nobody in Alberta disputes that cases there are going up. But there is real disagreement when it comes to new COVID restrictions. And you can see it within Premier Jason Kenney's own government. Rafi Boudjikanian shows us a collision of health orders and politics.
It's the last afternoon rush for a while in Alberta restaurants with little notice.
3-4 days, I've already done ordering for the week. I've already perhaps upped numbers on certain things, like maybe the cloths in the kitchen that we use.
But criticism of the government is also coming from the inside. Rural MLAs representing a quarter of the caucus unhappy with the new public health measures. In a letter, they say their constituents want them to defend their livelihoods and freedoms as Albertans and that they do not support the latest round of restrictions.
We live in a vibrant parliamentary democracy where people have a diverse range of views, particularly on something as important as the best response to COVID.
The Premier's response may be a middle ground, but today public health experts were talking about the impact of COVID variants.
Anybody that comes in, whether it is someone with COVID-19 symptoms or someone with a heart attack or a stroke or someone who's been in a car accident or broke their arm, those people are all waiting longer because of the wait time effects. And I worry that this letter is going to encourage people to revolt against the rules.
This political observer says Kenney may have his hands tied by the rebellious members of his caucus if he wants to repeat his previous electoral success.
I think what he's looking forward to is once the pandemic is under control, he's hoping that this internal division will disappear and he won't have to deal with these dissidents any longer.
Today, Kenney suggested there could well be more confrontation before the pandemic is over, as he's not ruling out further restrictions. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Edmonton.
Some 317,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine landed in Canada today as part of the first shipment from the global vaccine sharing initiative known as COVAX.
Distribution across the country has started already this morning and is expected to be completed by tomorrow. We expect to receive 1.9 million doses from COVAX in this quarter.
So Canada has contributed $440 million towards the COVAX initiative. Half of that will go to purchase vaccine doses for less wealthy countries. So right now, supply of AstraZeneca is not the problem. It's convincing wary Canadians to trust it after reports of rare complications overseas and changing advice from officials here. It's now recommended for people over 55. Thomas Douglas shows us provinces scrambling to attract the people to take it.
First, get your ticket, then come back for your shot. It's a new strategy in Quebec to give the AstraZeneca vaccine to any adult who's old enough. The message, if you don't mind getting this shot, then just show up.
AstraZeneca is going to do its job.
It was not the vaccine that I dream of, but I think it's important.
Indeed, most people at this clinic seem to have heard the news. The reports of rare blood clots in Europe leading Canada to stop giving the AstraZeneca vaccine to anyone under 55 and throwing a wrench in the rollout.
We're running into a little bit of a dilemma here in Regina.
In Saskatchewan, they may start offering Pfizer at this drive-through clinic. So far, it's only been AstraZeneca, and demand has dried up. There's barely a car in sight in this pic shared by Jan Hansen.
I'm not sure if there's a lack of understanding or if there's overwhelming skepticism, if people are waiting for something better. I'm ready for my second dose.
Nearly 2 million AstraZeneca doses have been delivered to Canada, but only a fraction of those have been administered. Some provinces are ramping up shots in pharmacies, but what about younger adults who got one dose and now can't get another?
For the time being, I think that folks are fine. I think that other options could be looked at.
Officials are still considering the effects of mixing doses, meaning those with one shot of AstraZeneca could receive another vaccine altogether. Melissa Lee hopes with a second dose she'll get her life back. Her multiple sclerosis treatment leaves her vulnerable to infection.
We're sort of left with not a lot of information. I think we're waiting on studies on whether or not we can continue with mixing doses. So all in all, it's a lot of uncertainty.
Supply and demand won't always match up, so provinces had better keep getting creative. Thomas Daglett, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, now to what's been called a different kind of public health emergency, gun violence in the United States. But consider the uphill battle when on the very day the U.S. president announces a new plan, news breaks of more shootings, more people dead. Ellen Morrow takes us through it.
Gun violence in this country is an epidemic, and it's an international embarrassment.
U.S. President Joe Biden lamenting a national tragedy, detailing plans to ease it.
Enough prayers. Time for some action.
Action including going after ghost guns made from at-home kits impossible to track. A new push for red flag laws to keep guns away from people in crisis, and more funding for community violence prevention programs.
It is a small piece of the puzzle.
But this gun violence researcher and surgeon says Capitol Hill must act too and pass stronger gun control legislation.
This is a public health issue. We really need to work strongly to depolarize and depoliticize these issues.
More than 300 Americans are shot every day on average. Yesterday, 5 people were killed in South Carolina. Hours after Biden's speech today, at least 1 person killed, several injured in Texas. Last month, 2 mass shootings in less than a week. 10 killed at a Colorado grocery store, 8 gunned down in Atlanta.
Stop people from dying every day.
This activist lost her cousin to gun violence.
It's not just your mass shootings, it's your everyday gun violence, it's your domestic abuse situations.
Still, action from Congress is unlikely. Despite the violence, Republicans remain dug in.
I'm not interested in taking away the Second Amendment rights of any American.
Biden called that a phony argument.
They've offered plenty of thoughts and prayers, members of Congress, but they passed not a single new federal law to reduce gun violence.
That's what the Biden administration wants, actual legislation. But today's executive actions are an acknowledgement of the political reality. Biden promised he would do more on guns, so he did. But passing a law would require 60 votes in the Senate, and Democrats just don't have that many. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
George Floyd died because his brain did not get enough oxygen. That was the message from today's key medical expert in the trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin. Susan Ormiston shows us why that detail might be seen as a turning point.
Dr. Martin Tobin, a respiratory expert, described George Floyd squashed between Officer Chauvin's knees and the hard pavement.
With each breath, he has to try and fight against the street. He has to try and fight with the small volumes that he has. And then he has to try and lift up the officer's knee with each breath.
His chest and lungs so compressed under Chauvin's weight, at one point with the officer's toe lifted off the ground, that Floyd could not draw enough breath.
Mr. Floyd died from a low level of oxygen, and this caused damage to his brain that we see, and it also caused a PEA arrhythmia that caused his heart to stop.
His testimony today drew a devastating picture of how Floyd tried to lift his shoulder and press his knuckles against the squad car just to make space in his chest.
And he is now literally trying to breathe with his fingers and knuckles.
The doctor said a kicking motion by Floyd was an involuntary seizure.
The leg jumps up like that as a result of a fatally low level of oxygen going to the brain.
And not, as defense has suggested, evidence that Floyd could resist and kick officers if they let him get up. The defense will argue that Floyd's drug use and a heart condition led to his death. Tobin disagreed.
A healthy person subjected to what Mr. Floyd was subjected to would have died as a result of what he was subjected to.
Finally, Tobin concluded that George Floyd drew his last struggling breath 3 minutes before Derek Chauvin released his knee.
So, Susan, can you put all this in some perspective for us? How significant of a day was this in the trial?
Well, you know, Adrienne, there are moments in every trial where it appears the case could turn, and today could be one of those. I mean, we had powerful testimony from 3 medical experts, and they all concluded that George Floyd did not die because of a drug overdose. He did not die because of pre-existing health conditions or a heart attack. He died because he couldn't get enough oxygen, and that's really at the heart of this case. How and why did George Floyd die? Of course, the defense will have their own medical experts, and we expect to see some of them coming up next week.
And we will be watching. Susan, thank you.
A professor at a major university has released a scathing letter about the anti-black racism he says he has faced there for 5 years. He spoke out today because he says York University is ramping up the process of firing him. He and the university have very different explanations for that. Asha Tomlinson takes a look.
Won't shut up and I won't go away.
M.A. Avalanto says he won't be silenced. The tenured French studies professor and former chair of his department at Toronto's York University recently told the Fifth Estate his story of what he calls anti-black racism on campus. But today he says going public has fast-tracked York's attempt to fire him.
What I'm doing is blowing the whistle around what anti-black racism really means, but also to seek protection from the community.
Avalanto held this news conference today with his supporters.
I witnessed the retaliation that Professor Avalanto experienced the more he would insist on an investigation or on having his complaints heard.
And he distributed this 50-page letter detailing what he says is gross mistreatment by York because he called out racism starting 5 years ago. He says he faced repercussions. Allegations against him of bullying and harassment started to pile on. But when the university commissioned a third-party investigation, it concluded those allegations were founded and there was no evidence to support Avalanto's claims of anti-black racism. The report said he was an unrepentant, uncontrollable, and dangerous harasser. His supporters, though, insist systemic racism explains what's going on here.
University must embrace discomfort in order to have a productive conversation about anti-Black racism. And that's not happening in post-secondary education.
York University tells us they stand behind the results of the external investigation into M.A. Avalonto, and that there's no merit to his claim they're firing him now because he's speaking out. Asha Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
There are calls for calm in Northern Ireland after days of chaos and riots. Next on The National, why Brexit and COVID are fueling anger in the streets.
A survivor tracks down the man who raped her after police could not.
I was one of the few that got to see justice.
And a 9-year-old's moment of kindness in a grocery store inspires an army of volunteers.
When I saw the elderly person, I thought that was my opportunity to go and help somebody.
Now, a year later, she's helping thousands more. We're back in 2. Brazil saw more than 4,200 COVID-19 deaths today, breaking a record set just 2 days ago. The outbreak there is spiraling out of control. Vaccines are in short supply. The president is fighting lockdowns, and the country's hospitals are overwhelmed. Just one example of how they're forced to make do, an example being dubbed the hand of God. 2 disposable gloves full of hot water simulating human contact, a desperate move by overwhelmed frontline workers who just don't have the time to hold the hands of the sick and lonely COVID patients in some of Brazil's packed isolation wards.
Well, violence is rising in Northern Ireland after more than 20 years of relative calm. Brexit and COVID may be the cause of clashes over the last week and a half. But as Renee Filipponi explains, some fear it could lead to a resurgence of much older grievances.
One of the gates of Belfast's so-called peace wall was lit up with fire from both sides, as hundreds of rioters, many of them young, took part in what's been a week of escalating violence. Acts of aggression, like this attack on a bus, have police calling it the worst rioting Northern Ireland has seen in years.
The fact that it was sectarian violence and there was large groups on both sides of the gates at Lanark Way, again, is something that we have not seen for a number of years.
The violence comes at a time when pro-British unionists are concerned Brexit is eroding their position within the UK and are angered by new customs checks at the ports.
Brexit is fundamental to what's happening in Northern Ireland at the moment because it's basically changed the status of Northern Ireland, not constitutionally, but it's definitely changed it vis-a-vis the Republic of Ireland and with Great Britain.
There was also anger directed at the police for not prosecuting members of the Irish Nationalist Party, Sinn Féin, for attending a mass funeral during COVID restrictions.
And I want to begin.
In an emergency meeting of Northern Ireland's power-sharing government, there were calls for a united front against the violence.
When politics fail or are perceived to be failing in Northern Ireland, then those who fill the vacuum offer destruction and despair.
But there are real concerns the violence between communities will only get worse.
You can get an escalation because now they have a target other than the police. And then you have a sense of defending your community, not just expressing frustration.
The charred remains of unrest, all too familiar here, and a reminder of how fragile things can be in a place so deeply divided. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
Well, police told a sexual assault survivor her attacker would be difficult to find, so she found him herself.
I was angry he made me a victim. I never wanted to be any victim.
Now she's sharing her story and her journey to justice. That's coming up.
First, though, Rosie's here with that issue.
Hey, Adrienne, tonight we are going to talk about a couple conventions happening this week, virtual ones, the NDP and the Liberals.
I want to make that case to Canadians to let them know the Liberals weren't on their side.
How both of them are laying the groundwork for the next federal election. We'll talk about who they're trying to appeal to. That's all coming up next with Chantal, Andrew, and Althea. The Liberals and the NDP will be trading the usual convention floor this weekend for the pandemic alternative. Both parties are hosting virtual conventions, their first since before the last federal election. This time, it's an opportunity to frame their message ahead of the next election. And who will be delivering that message matters, as does what policies will be up for debate. But for the NDP, there's more. Its leader's popularity will also be put to the test. So how will leaders and their parties make their pitches? It's Thursday. You know what that means. I'm here with At Issue, Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. All join me. Good to see all of you. Normally, this would be a really busy weekend for all of us. You all might be here. We all might be meeting with people and talking to people and trying to get a sense of how things are going to unfold. That's not what's going to happen this weekend. Let's start with the Liberal convention. They've got some big ticket names giving speeches. They seem to be focused on getting things ready for an election they say they don't want. Althea, I'll start with you. What are you expecting to come from this, other than, we'll see whether anyone watches it?
I think all eyes are going to be on Carney on Friday. He has not declared that he is running as a Liberal candidate. Lots of Liberals hope that he will declare that he is running as a candidate. If we look back in the past, the policy convention is a great place where the Liberals like to showcase stars like Jody Wilson-Raybould and Harjit Sajjan and Andrew Leslie. And so it's, it may not be in the cards for the coming months if there's an election, say, but down the line, very possibly. I think the other thing we might be looking at this convention with the Liberals is whatever Mr. Carney says on Friday will be compared to what is in Chrystia Freeland's budget. So I know that Ms. Freeland's a little bit nervous, and apparently she's been making calls to Mr. Carney to make sure that they're all singing from the same songbook. So, but as far as big drama, I think that might be more the case for the NDP convention, where there tends to be more disagreement.
Yes, and we will certainly get to that. You're right. There may be more flare-ups there. The Liberals have done a pretty good job, Chantal, of trying to make sure that this comes off pretty clean, I would say. And yes, Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of Canada, Bank of England, who's written a book. He is trying to sell a book, so maybe he's not looking for another job, but he is one of the keynotes on Friday. What are you expecting to come out of all this?
Well, one thing you have to say about party members who will spend a sunny weekend in the spring watching a convention is that they tend to be political junkies. Yeah. And the Liberal Party, in two ways, is kind of provided enough of a fix, I think, to keep them interested. And one of those is Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland, and the notion that they have people like that maybe in the political or the leadership window. I think the other wise thing is all the focus on the election preparation, not because it's going to be terribly useful to all those people who are watching, but because it focuses minds on the big prize, which is a possible upcoming election, no time to rock the boat and mess up. And then it's almost cruel to say that, but the low bar on a non-successful convention is being set by the Conservatives already, and it's impossible for either the NDP or the Liberals to do worse this weekend. That's my bold prediction than the Conservatives did a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, Andrew, with that low bar in place, what would you expect to emerge?
I think even by Liberal standards, this will be a party in the grips of an almost paralytic self-satisfaction. They're happy with their lot in life. They're happy with what they stand for. They're happy with their leader. Not a lot of rocking of the boat is going to happen. Much of this is going to be internal party matters of preparing for the election that they claim they don't want. And, there's a lot of preparation going on for that election that isn't supposed to be happening. But to be fair to them, there's also a fair degree of confidence and exuberance in the policy platform. And we're all talking about how boring and dull it is, perhaps by the standards of the NDP platform or the NDP policy discussions. But, a basic income used to be considered a pretty radical idea. You got to give them credit, and comparing both the Liberal and the NDP resolutions to what went on at the Conservative convention. We're talking about what a bust that convention was, because all the focus was on that one resolution about whether or not climate change was real. Well, the reason there was so much focus on it was there was so little else to discuss in the resolutions they were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you can criticize what's there, but I think you're right. They are kind of bold ideas that may shake people up. Let me play a little clip of the NDP leader who spoke to Vashi Kapillas on PNP tonight ahead of his convention. Here's what he had to say.
We can show folks when it comes down to it, when people were down and out, having New Democrats elected made people better off. It meant millions of Canadians were better off. And I want to make that case to Canadians to let them know the Liberals weren't on their side.
So I should say he does have a leadership review. That's something that they have to do. Everyone I talk to, Althea says it's not going to be an issue. They're launching some big ads this weekend. What do they have to do here to make sure they aren't sort of lost in the shuffle, or that some of those policies that we were talking about, proposals or resolutions, don't cause all sorts of chaos for the party?
I don't know what NDP resolutions at this time have passed the vote that happened on Wednesday. So there are things like getting rid of all billionaires, taxing them at 100% past the $1 billion mark. I'm told that the party is not dissatisfied from the top 5 resolutions. That's just before we recorded this. That was what I was told the party only knew at this point. So could there be more things in there that cause them problems? Absolutely. There is always the Israel-Palestine issue usually bumbling up on the floor of the NDP convention. There is a resolution regarding the word socialism, which caused a great deal of debate over the last 3 NDP conventions. But now democratic socialism is like this cool new word, thanks to Bernie Sanders. I mean, they could sell T-shirts with this on it. Jagmeet Singh got 90.7% in 2018, last time he got a vote. If the vote had happened last year, I think he may have gotten a lower vote than what he is going to get this weekend, because a lot of Quebec MPs and Quebec party members are very disappointed with the last election result. That is not the case now. People are, seeing how great he's doing in the polls, his personal popularity. So actually, I expect him to do better than what he got in 2018.
Okay, but Chantal, the fact remains that the party's not, they like to say they're doing okay in the polls, but they're doing okay for the NDP. They are not competitive.
Excuse me, but they're doing okay for the NDP by comparison to how they were doing as the NDP just a few years ago?
Yes,
no,
exactly.
They're not. And if those battles do not seem as relevant as they were over 3 conventions, it's because the NDP is no longer on what looks like a track to federal power. Yeah. So if they were where the Conservatives are, we would be saying this is a show that demonstrates that they're not ready for prime time, except that the polls show that they're not headed for prime time. So it doesn't really matter whether they agree or not. So it's not just Bernie Sanders made this sexy. It's that they have become not less relevant to the conversation, because I believe that all parties, whether they're third parties, fourth parties, or headed for power, are relevant to the conversation. But they are not going to be judged by the standard of a party that may become the next government.
Andrew, your thoughts on what Mr. Singh has to do or what the party has to indicate after the weekend?
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't overstate the significance, for good or ill, of what gets adopted at policy conventions of the broad party. What will really matter in terms of the voting public is what finds its way into the platform, and in all of those parties, the leadership has virtually total control of that. I think these function more or less the way that runway fashion shows do, where you see things that no one's ever going to wear, but they kind of soften the public up for less radical versions of it. So if I were the NDP, yeah, there's the odd resolution there to make it illegal to be a billionaire, or to disband the army, or to nationalize the auto industry, the energy industry, and about 4 or 5 other industries. It's not going to be in the platform, but it allows them to kind of exercise their energies and to get a sense of their broader simpatico with each other, that it creates unity in the party much more than the divisions over particular issues. Yeah. It gets them feeling that they're part of a larger cause. The other thing I would say is, the outlier clauses in resolutions in the policy platform of policy resolutions of the NDP are a bit out there, but there's much more in common between the Liberal and the NDP here. It's quite striking how similar some of their broad policy proposals are. And they've become almost in kind of a bidding war between the two of them. And again, I'll say, if the Conservatives were anywhere in this game, they could capitalize on that. But they're not in position to do so. You'd think they'd be able to move into the center and take up the space the Liberals have been vacating, but I don't see any sign of it.
This panel was a win because Andrew talked about fashion shows and Chantal said sexy. So that's it. I'm done for the whole night. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast edition, where you'll find extra content, including the panel's take on this one.
There's a lot of people that are playing politics right now, and it's totally irresponsible.
The latest responses to the third wave, you can look for that on any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/thenational.
Okay, Rosie, so there's really hardly any news going on. Wondering what you're working on for this Sunday.
Yeah, it's a good weekend to have a Sunday show if two political conventions are happening. We'll touch on both of those with the NDP leader and a Liberal cabinet minister as well. And as well, Adrienne, we've got Reverend Al Sharpton, who has been supporting George Floyd's family through the Chauvin trial in the United States. He's going to give us his take of where it's at and what needs to happen to allow the United States to heal.
Okay, we'll be watching that. Rosemary Barton live on Sunday. Thanks, Rosie.
Thanks, Adrienne.
Well, next, police said it would be too difficult, so she found the man who attacked her.
I was angry he made me a victim. I never wanted to be any victim.
How she finally got justice right after the break.
And an exclusive look behind the scenes as scientists try to figure out why some get so sick from COVID and others not.
Welcome back. Tonight, we're hearing from the survivor of a violent sexual assault and her fight for justice. She spoke with Bonnie Allen about how she had to personally track down her attacker in order to see him put behind bars.
It's been a grueling 5 years for this sexual assault survivor. We'll call her Kathy due to a publication ban that protects her identity.
I was angry he made me a victim. I never wanted to be any victim. And I finally feel I can take back myself.
In March 2016, Kathy met Julian Nickdema on the internet dating site Plenty of Fish. He said his name was John, a house painter from Greece who had moved to Canada a few years earlier. They met for coffee, then shared a vehicle to go for lunch. Afterward, he drove her out of the city, he said, to go for a walk. But then he raped her.
He literally was this perfect gentleman, and then when he kissed and turned to me in the ditch, he acted as if he was on something or just crazed. It was a Jekyll and Hyde experience.
In court, a sexual assault nurse testified that Kathy's injury was one of the worst she had ever seen. At first, Kathy didn't want to report the rape. She was embarrassed and blamed herself for going on the date.
I felt so dirty. I just wanted to be out of my skin.
But then the single mother changed her mind.
I taught my daughter to be a strong woman, independent woman, and she's incredible. And I had to prove to her I could still be the strong woman that raised her.
But Kathy had to do much more than just report what happened here to police. When an officer told her that there wasn't much police could do with only a man's fake first name, Kathy had to do her own investigation. She took Nickdema's profile picture from Plenty of Fish, did a reverse Google search, and tracked down his real name and phone number in a Kijiji ad for painting services. With that, he was arrested and eventually convicted of sexual assault causing bodily harm, then sentenced to 3 years in prison.
I've gone to dark places in my mind through the process. It was so worth it. I was in disbelief that my story was heard, and I was one of the few that got to see justice.
In March, the Parole Board of Canada granted Nickdema day parole, noting that according to the Border Services Agency, should you be released from custody on day or full parole, the deportation order will be immediately enforced. At first, Kathy was surprised that he only served a third of his sentence, 1 year and 3 months, but she's not disappointed.
He didn't see that he did anything wrong, and I thought, it doesn't matter how long he's in prison, he'll never know. But he coveted being a Canadian citizen and living in Canada. And that's the biggest punishment, and he'll never be able to come back.
And now that he's no longer in the country,
I felt lighter. I could breathe. There was tension I had in my body that disappeared. I could now really heal in peace.
She's ready to take back her city and her life. Kathy says she's a different person now, scarred, yes, but stronger too. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Regina.
Canadian scientists are trying to crack a COVID mystery.
Really sick. I was on oxygen.
I never had any symptoms.
Why do some seniors get so sick and others not? Next, an exclusive look inside the lab, trying to figure that out.
I'm Jamie Poisson, and tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast Front Burner, George Floyd's killing sparked global protests over race and policing. A look at 2 weeks of wrenching testimony at the Derek Chauvin murder trial. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
It is a mystery that continues to perplex scientists. Why some seniors get so sick with COVID-19 while others have few symptoms or none at all. Now, Halifax researchers are looking for the answer with the hope that answer could pay off even beyond the pandemic. Kayla Hounslow got an exclusive look inside their lab.
This is what researchers call the penthouse, a lab on the 15th floor at Dalhousie University, where they're studying the blood of long-term care residents.
We receive 4 tubes per subject.
We've been granted exclusive access for a short time only so that we can safely understand how they process the blood.
We separate out the plasma, or the liquid portion of the blood, and then we isolate the immune cells.
They're examining the way immune systems respond to COVID-19 over time.
So that we could see how people recover from COVID and compare that with people who didn't have COVID.
Dr. Lisa Barrett is leading the study and hopes to answer a critical question.
Why some people get infection, why some people do not get infection, why some people who are 102 get the infection and don't even know they have it, while some people who are 65 may actually die.
That's exactly what happened at Northwood, where there was a significant outbreak during the first wave. Alistair Hiltz is 56.
So I was really sick. I was on oxygen.
On the same floor, 88-year-old Viola Power also tested positive.
I never had any symptoms. I never got sick. Just feel just like I do now.
Barrett says her study could create a better quality of life for older people even beyond COVID-19.
We don't really understand why a person's immune system gets more weakened as they get older. We assume that it's going to happen, but why? And does it have to happen?
For her team, it's the opportunity of a lifetime.
You start your career trajectory as a researcher, and you never think you're ever going to be in the middle of a pandemic and be able to contribute.
The research here in the penthouse will take a year and a half, but it is expected to have a lasting impact. Kayla Hounslow, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, next on The National, a young girl who's making a big impact. The story behind her initiative that is helping to feed thousands. Next in our moment. Hannah Fatima is 9 years old. When the pandemic hit, Hannah realized that many people needed food and supplies. So she and her dad began to help their neighbors, and word of what they were doing spread pretty quickly. Now, their simple act of kindness has sparked a huge initiative and spurred a small army of volunteers, thousands of people pitching in to help feed their neighbors. Tonight, it's our moment.
1 year ago, 2 days before our first lockdown started, me and my dad were out shopping, and then at the checkout line, I saw an elderly person who needed help, and when I helped them, they were really happy. After that, my dad, he told his friends, and they told their friends, and they started doing it.
It just started spreading, and when we made it first public on Facebook, and within 24 hours we got like 600 people who said that they are available to help for this project.
My dad told me there's over 6,000 volunteers, and we have done over 9,000 deliveries now. Some people delivered for over 200 times. I feel really happy being able to help people, not only me, but all the volunteers. Whenever you get a chance to be helpful and kind, you just go and do it without thinking about it much, and everybody should do that too. You see an opportunity, somebody needs help, just go and do it. Don't need to think about it.
I love her. I love her.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
The world needs more Hannah very, very clearly.
Yes.
Heard her say 6,000 volunteers. They speak some 30 languages. Hannah, you've built chapters in Toronto, London, Ottawa. I'm blown away.
That's wild. This is a big deal. And she says this, it feels like a big deal. She gets emotional when she makes her deliveries, understandably, of course. And get this, she says when she grows up, she wants to spend part of her time helping others, the other part of her time teaching people to help others. That's The National for this April 8th. Good night.
Good night.